Happy Monday. I'd like to talk a little bit today about something called unintended consequences. You know what I mean. You try to do something really good and it goes just really well, and then all of a sudden you look around and something really kind of bad is going on. And it's all because of what you did in the first place. It's not because you wanted the bad thing to happen. It's just because that's a consequence of the original action. I got to thinking about this quite a bit while I spent about 5 hours of my life that I'll never get back again watching the Economic Development Council or Commission talk about the minimum wage. Now, it's obviously a good idea that people make enough money that they can live on. That's great. All right. I'm not going to say how much money that is, but there's an unintended consequence that was discussed at that meeting. And that's what happens to all the people that make a good living through tips. You know, that waiter or waitress who serves you at that fancy restaurant. I'll tell you what, it's almost a guarantee that they're making a lot more than any minimum wage we could talk about. But if it's required that the restaurant owners pay all of those people a minimum wage of $15 an hour or $13 an hour, what's going to happen is that the business owners are going to have to pay taxes on all of that, and they're going to have to say, hey, in order for us to make a living, we're going to have to raise the price of the meals, and you know, we may have to say that, customer, you don't have to tip anymore. Well, you can see this whole set of dominoes falling over, can't you? Those people aren't going to make the kind of living they used to make. The people are going to have fewer waiters or waitresses. You know, there's a lot of things that happen. I had a relative who was running a restaurant a few years ago, and his number one complaint was, how do I deal with paying my wait staff a minimum wage and pay all of the Social Security and income tax and unemployment insurance and all of that stuff on the minimum wage, and they're making more money on their tips than they are on what I'm paying them. It's a pretty complicated issue and a pretty tough one too. But I think that we need to watch what we do, especially with this minimum wage debate, which I'm sure the City Council is going to deal with before the month's out, on what some of the unintended consequences will be. Again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't pay people enough to live on. That's a good idea. But let's look at the consequences of what happens when we do that. Thanks.